Welcome to my channel, Veterans Legacy. Today's story is one that hits the heart like a thunderclap. A story that reminds us that honor cannot be bought, respect cannot be demanded, and real heroes rarely raise their own voices. The video opens with slow, cinematic music, soft strings, a low distant drum, like footsteps echoing across time. The screen fades from black to the inside of a crowded airport terminal, sunlight slanting through towering glass walls. And that's where our story begins. He looked older than the world around him, a man out of time. His name was Walter Hayes, a retired Army veteran who had survived 2 wars, 3 deployments, and more losses than he ever spoke about. He walked with a slight limp, the kind you get from years of doing the difficult things no one else wanted to do. His jacket was faded, the embroidered flag on the shoulder nearly washed white, and hanging from his neck was a small set of tarnished dog tags he never removed. The airport buzzed with hurried footsteps, rolling suitcases, and voices blending into a constant wave of sound. Walter, slow but steady, approached his gate, Gate 47B. The airline attendant smiled warmly. "Sir, you're early. Your priority boarding is in about 30 minutes, she said. He nodded, settling into a seat near the window. He loved watching airplanes, machines he'd worked around his whole life. Each one felt like a piece of his past, a reminder of missions where the only thing louder than the engines was the pounding in his chest. He was flying to meet his daughter and grandchildren, the first time in many years. But then, a group of 3 young men approached. Loud, laughing, careless in the way only people who've never carried real burdens can be. "Yo, bro, these seats are perfect," one said, slapping his backpack onto the chair next to Walter. Another pointed directly at him. "Hey old man, move over. We wanna sit." Walter blinked slowly. He was sitting at the edge of a 4-chair row. There was space, plenty of it. The airline attendant nearby stepped closer. "Gentlemen, he's seated properly." "Nah," the tallest one interrupted, "we're saving these seats for our friends. He can move somewhere else." Walter could have argued. He could have pushed back. But decades of discipline made him choose silence instead. He nodded once, stood, and picked up his small bag. His knees shook. Not from fear, but from age, and the effort to stand made him wince. The young men just laughed. "See, problem solved. Yeah, go find another seat, Grandpa." People looked, some shook their heads, but nobody stepped in. The world rarely does. Walter shuffled away, holding the railing as he searched for another spot. But he didn't know that someone else had seen everything. Someone whose entrance would change the entire room. 10 minutes later, the atmosphere shifted, almost like the air gained weight. A uniformed soldier walked into the waiting area. Not just any soldier, a 4-star general, General Marcus Alden, a man whose very presence made people stand a little straighter. Tall, sharp-eyed, silver hair cropped perfectly. He moved like a storm contained within a single man. Passengers noticed first, some whispered, some saluted, and though he returned each salute with respect, his eyes kept searching the room, until they locked onto Walter Hayes, now sitting alone near a vending machine. And something inside the general froze. He recognized the man instantly. He had seen that limp before, had heard stories told in hushed tones at bases around the world. Because decades ago, when Marcus Alden was nothing more than a terrified young lieutenant on his first deployment, Walter Hayes had saved his life. The general walked straight toward him. "Sergeant Hayes," he said softly. Walter looked up in disbelief. "General Alden, sir." In a heartbeat, the general snapped into a posture that shocked everyone within earshot. A crisp, perfect salute to the old veteran sitting in that lonely chair. "Sir," the general said, voice steady with emotion, "it's an honor to see you." Walter, confused, returned the salute slowly. People stared. Phones rose. Whispers spread like wildfire. The general leaned closer. "I saw what happened at the gate," he said. "You should be sitting at priority, not hiding over here." Walter shook his head. "It's fine, General. They're just kids. They don't know better." The general's jaw tightened. "That's exactly why they will learn." And with that, he turned on his heel and marched toward Gate 47B. The 3 young men were still laughing, sprawled across the seats, phones out, shoes thrown up onto the chairs. One was scrolling, the other 2 were watching a video. They didn't even notice the general approaching, not until his shadow stretched across them. "Gentlemen." They looked up, then froze. Every soldier knows that tone. Even civilians can feel it. It's the kind of voice that has led men into battle, and brought them home. Sir, is everything okay?" One stammered. The general pointed to the seats. "These seats belong to a United States Army veteran. A man who bled for this country long before any of you were even born. A man who earned more respect than what I just witnessed here." They swallowed. Color drained from their faces. "Stand," the general ordered. They stood so fast their bags dropped to the floor. Passengers watching nearby went silent. The general continued, loud enough for the entire boarding area to hear. "When you mock one veteran, you mock every veteran. You mock the sacrifice that gave you the luxury to walk freely through this airport. You mock the flag stitched onto your clothes, whether you see it or not." One of them whispered, We didn't mean. Your intentions are irrelevant." His voice cut like steel. "What matters is what you do next." He turned away and motioned to Walter. "Sergeant Hayes," the general called, his voice suddenly gentle, "your seat awaits." Every eye in the terminal turned toward the old man walking slowly toward them. Even with his limp, he walked with dignity, the kind earned only by those who have endured storms without asking for applause. The young men stepped aside instantly. Walter hesitated. "General, that's not necessary." "It is," the general replied. "Not for pride, for principle." He placed a hand on Walter's shoulder. "You carried soldiers under fire. You carried courage when the rest of us carried fear. You carried this nation when it needed you the most. So today, the least we can do is carry a seat for you." Walter sat down, his old hands trembling slightly. The three young men, ashamed and silent, stood nearby until the general dismissed them with a nod, not unkind, but firm. "Next time," he said to them, "you stand up on your own." The moment didn't end there. The airline attendant approached with misty eyes. "Sir," she said to Walter, "we'd like to upgrade you to first class." Walter blinked. "Ma'am, I don't need. It's already done," she said softly. "Your service deserves it." Passengers began clapping. Not the polite kind, but the overwhelming, emotional kind. Some stood, some saluted, some simply wiped tears. Not for a celebrity, not for a politician, for a quiet old soldier who had carried the weight of wars most people only saw in movies. The general helped him to his feet again. "Walk with me, Sergeant." Together they walked down the boarding tunnel, slow, steady, side by side. A general, and the veteran who once saved his life. On the plane, Walter was seated in 1A, a chair that felt too large, too soft, too fancy for someone like him. But he settled in, glancing out the window with a small smile. The general passed by on his way to his own seat. Before taking his place, he leaned in. "Sergeant Hayes, thank you for everything." Walter's voice was quiet but firm. "You grew into the kind of leader this country needed, son. That's all the thanks I ever wanted." The general straightened, eyes bright. He saluted one last time. When the plane took off, Walter closed his eyes. He wasn't thinking about the young men, or the airport, or even the seat he'd been given. He thought of soldiers who never made it home. The ones who should have been sitting in first class instead of him. The ones he still carried in his heart. And as the clouds swallowed the plane, the music rose, soft, emotional, cinematic. A reminder that real heroes don't wear capes. They walk among us quietly, until someone finally sees them. If this story moved your heart, if it reminded you of the sacrifices carved into the backbone of our freedom, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive, honoring the men and women who gave everything so we could have something.